See, it wasn't me. It was Leigh who bought all these books. Leigh, how could you? Did you take Nana's credit card and buy these books? So guilty, look at that face.
On this episode of Book Day, we're gonna see how much money Aliana spent, which you don't tell me about.
We really wanted to start reading all of the 2023 Goodreads best of list, so I just, I had to buy them.
Wait, so that's only Goodreads?
No, there's other stuff too. All right, so one of our subscribers told me that I should not start Sarah J. Maas, the Throne of Glass series with Assassin's Blade, even though it's technically the prequel. Technically, that's the first one in chronological order, but one of our subscribers really recommended that I start with Throne of Glass, which is technically the first one that came out in this series. So here we go. Really excited for that. All right. So this isn't a new book by any means. This is One Day by David Nicholls. This is a romance novel, but this book has been around for a really long time. I remember one of my best friends in high school, this was one of her all-time favorite reads, and she always wanted me to read it, and I never got around to it. And then I saw the other day on Netflix that Netflix made a series about it, and now it's all the rage again, and everyone's talking about the story. This is one of those love stories that, it takes them 20 years to kind of figure it out, and it's like an on again, off again, never the right time kind of love story. So I'm finally really excited to finally read it, and then I'll watch the series, and then I'll also watch the movie that came out years ago with Anne Hathaway and the guy from Across the Universe.
I feel like at this point, this is like, if you were to come up with a book club, right? This would be the best book club. Like, just read whatever Netflix is turning into a series, or whatever HBO is turning into a series. Like, if you want, I think that actually might be the most consistently great way to find your next reads. Is just find out whatever is getting made into a series next, because if somebody's willing to put $50 to $100 million behind making a series, it has to be good on some kind of level. Okay, so there's a little bit of a quirk, mainly because of the fact that I get all my books in audio format, and I actually get them from my library system. Basically, I'm just doing like a library digital haul. So I don't actually have the books with me physically, so I'm just gonna use this bag here, and then I'm gonna face it this way so that they don't see our address the entire video. And then I'll just kind of like shake it. Yes, thanks. And that'll be my first. And the first one is actually Ninth House. Now, the reason why I got Ninth House is actually because I also got Hellbent, but Hellbent is the second in the series. The reason why I was reading that one is because we're gonna do a future video where we review all of Goodreads winners in each genre and category, just to see if Goodreads got it right. And the Hellbent was the winner for what genre was it?
Fantasy.
Fantasy. Okay, so I read that one. Spoiler, it lived up to the hype. It was actually very, very good. And so I liked it so much that I said, you know what? I'm gonna do this right, and I'm actually gonna go back and get the first in the series as well and read that one. I don't know what I was thinking going, I'll just start the second in the series, in a series that is, I'm not gonna say it's hard to follow, but it does have a lot of world building, a lot of things you have to learn about. I'm gonna say though,
I have a feeling someone told you that beforehand.
Still, it worked out great. It was actually kind of nice. It kind of felt like a movie that you start watching it and it just drops you right into the action, and you just kind of have to figure things out as you go. And honestly, I didn't have any problems, and in fact, it actually added a lot more intrigue. If you don't know anything about Ninth House, it's basically this girl. She can see dead people, so she is basically introduced into the occult world of Yale and all their secret societies, where there is about maybe, I think, 8 to 9 secret societies that actually do practice occult magic. And she gets brought into that world as kind of a bodyguard that keeps dead spirits away while the secret societies of Yale perform all of their ceremonies. It's a very gothic, occult, very grimy. So I hope you have the stomach for it. I have to admit, it's a very grimy
I have
story.
also heard the same thing, that it's very graphic. Next up, I got Golden Sun, which is the second book in the Red Rising series. This is actually currently what I'm reading right now. I'm almost done. I don't think I'm enjoying it so far as much as the first one, Red Rising, but I'm still very invested in the characters and everything that they're going through and this universe in general. I think this is starting to just, suffer from the fact that it's the sequel, and typically the first book and the last book in a trilogy are pretty much, the pillars. This one kind of gets lost in the middle, but either way, still enjoying it. It's a little bit harder to read than the first one, I will say. It's a little more technical in the sci-fi world, sci-fi, fantasy. It's pretty much a mix of both, but almost done with this. This is actually what I'm currently reading right now.
I think the reason why you not liking this one as much as the first one is mainly because of the fact that the first one was very concentrated on this one character. It's kind of like this Braveheart in space story. And then the second one actually goes a lot more into the world building, a lot more into the politics, and then it ends up being Rome in space. And maybe that is definitely a harder story to follow. Like you might need to do like scantrons and like maybe look up who a character is.
I have definitely looked up certain things and explanations and
it's like watching Game of Thrones.
Certain things that they just kind of recap what I just read or tie back to something that I kind of missed, because this is what's kind of happening to me is I'm either listening to it because I have it on audio book version as well, or reading it and I find myself like starting to glaze over and missing key things that are happening. Not to say it's not good. It is good. I just it takes a lot more mindfulness to read these. It's not an easy read by any means. Next up, I've got The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, author of Babel and Yellowface. This is, I believe, the second book she came out with.
This author's been making a lot of waves lately. I feel like I feel like she has multiple books in the top 10 lists, and I don't think any of them are disappointing, really. But what is this one about? About
an orphan who gets into an elite military school. So again, I don't really like to look too much into books before I read them, but this author is fantastic. So I'm excited to read this one. You'll probably like this one too.
I'm actually gonna get that one. Next up. So this one, I feel like I need this book. It's Percy Jackson, the second Percy Jackson, the Sea Monsters. I feel like I need that book after reading Hellbent and before reading Ninth House as like a fantasy, wonder, happy palate cleanser before I get more into grimy, drug abuse and occult and sacrifices. All right. Next up is All Systems Red. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. It was the cover that kind of attracted me to this book. And I usually don't see covers that are showing such a clear, distinct depiction of like hardcore sci-fi on these top lists on the app where I get all my books from. So it kind of caught my attention. I saw it. It was only 3 hours of listening long. So I was like, I'm gonna get it. And it's basically the diary of a murder robot in the future. It's kind of like, it says that if you like Ex Machina and Westworld, I like both of those, that you're gonna be into it. I also kind of started reading the first 15 minutes, and it really does read like the thoughts of a robot that is going to maybe turn murderous.
That sounds good.
So yeah, we'll see. And it's also part of a series that will, if it's good, I have another series that I can get into.
All right, another one from the Goodreads best of list. This one won for best debut novel by an author and historical fiction. This is Weyward, which is supposedly the story of 3 women from the Weyward family throughout history at different times in history, and their plots merging. Supposedly they are witches from what I can tell from the back of the book, what I can tell from the reviews I've seen online. So I haven't heard anyone talk about this. I haven't seen this book anywhere on booktube, so I'm pretty surprised that it won an award for Goodreads, and not just one but 2 for both historical fiction and best debut novel.
I'm not surprised by anything in Goodreads.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people are saying that Goodreads, these awards are just basically popularity contests.
It's the Kids' Choice Awards. That's what it is.
But
The Rock should come out and announce all the winners.
Obviously, it's a debut novel from Emilia Hart, so I have no idea what this author is, what her style is, but we'll see.
Next up, Crying in Hmart. This is a book that has just been, I've seen it multiple times there on the top 10 lists. And then I decided, okay, what the hell? It's not that long. I'll grab it, I'll read it. And basically it's the coming of age story of a young immigrant South Korean girl being raised in the United States by her family. I don't think it's gonna be anything exceptional, but it's not really a culture that I know that much about, so maybe it's worth the 8 to 10 hours of listening just to see if I can kind of grasp foreign culture just a little bit more, especially by someone from it.
What's the culture again?
South Korean.
I feel like so far into this year, there's been a lot of talk of like Asian related novels between reading Crazy Rich Asians and everything by R.F. Kuang.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next one, which is Yellowface. So I got Yellowface mainly because of the fact that I've just been hearing a lot of buzz about it. It also won for Goodreads for what was it?
Best fiction.
Best fiction. Okay, so it won for that, and I think Ali was actually gonna read it, but I said, I'll just read it too. Basically, it caught my attention. It caught my attention because the idea of it is that a white author steals the story from an Asian writer and then poses it as her own story, publishes it, and then it just sounds like it's gonna be a very controversial book, and I'm all about that.
No spoilers, it is. It's very controversial. It's great. But Guy is gonna read it, and then in an upcoming video, we're going to both talk about it. Very excited. I have thoughts.
So anyway, if you guys want to know what we finally thought about all of these books that we haven't read yet, just tune in. We're gonna release 2 episodes, I believe, that are gonna be about all of the Goodreads winners. So subscribe if you want to see if we actually like these books, or if we thought that Goodreads got it wrong, which I guarantee you, I bet you at least 50% of them got it wrong.
We'll see, because the next one I have is also on that list. It's The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. You guys know that I loved the first one, The Housemaid, that I read in like one night. This is the direct continuation of the first one with the same characters and the same idea. So really excited to see if this one's just enthralling, just as heart-pounding, and just as good. I'm sure it is. I have a feeling, I mean, the cover is exactly the same. The back of the book kind of gives me the exact same vibes as the first one, so I have a feeling that this author is just, it's one of those that the structure of the book is like exactly the same, and it's gonna follow like the exact same pattern. But I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it.
What did that one win?
This one for Best Thriller. Which again, the first one, the writing wasn't by any means a piece of literary art, but it was fun, okay? And if this one is just as fun, then I can see why it won. Not because it's like the best written book ever, but again, Goodreads seems to be, you know, filled with 14-year-old girls who will find this absolutely groundbreaking. But guess what? I do too.
All right, next up. I'm getting tired of this. Anyway, it's In the Lives of Puppets. So this one for Best Sci-Fi, it is a sci-fi retelling of Pinocchio, and they lost me right then and there. Like, out of the entire year, this was the best sci-fi book that was released. Just think about it. Do you really think it was the best sci-fi book? Like, it just doesn't even sound, whatever. Anyway.
I don't read sci-fi. You have a good collection of books there on your Libby app right now. But can he listen to all of these before they get returned to the library? Can he?
Sometimes I listen. I basically just go by whatever's expiring. It's kind of like how we eat out of our fridge. So whatever's gonna expire next, we just eat that.
Last up for my haul, again going with the this one for the young adult fantasy novel for the Goodreads Best of 2023. This is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I may or may not have just finished this one, and I may or may not have, you know, at the very end run to get the second one because the first one left off in a cliffhanger. But again, if you want to know what I truly thought about it, you're just gonna have to wait for our upcoming video. So, Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. These are young adult novels set in a fantasy world. Really excited to kind of get into the second one now that I've read the first one. And yeah, they're pretty.
What are they about?
Divine Rivals is the story of two aspiring journalists competing for the same role in their local newspaper in a time where there is a war of gods going on around them. So there is magic, there's a bit of a romance between these divine rivals. Really interesting. Yeah, I will go into all of my thoughts in a future video.
Next up, well, last up. Holly by Stephen King. So this won Best Horror in Goodreads. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this one. So I've never actually been able to get into Stephen King, not too much. He's a very prolific writer. He writes a lot of books. He seems to not be able to stop. He pumps out, 2 to 3 books a year, it seems like. I do like the Dark Tower series. I was able to get into that. I loved it. But for the most part, his books are not books I usually reach for. And not to mention the fact that he's almost a genre unto himself because he has so many books. This one centers around a young detective as she tries to go through and solve cases that involve, you know, horror elements. I believe this one deals with cannibals. So I'm sure it's gonna be like a fantastic time. And I'll probably cannibal it right after I finish. What?
Cannibals. Cannonball.
That's not close.
I thought that was intentional.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not.
Thank you guys so much for watching this book haul. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Especially subscribe if you want to see if we actually like these books or not.
That's true. Cheers.